This is part 2 of our discussion about naming compounds. Let's start by having a review by naming these compounds. What do you think is the name for this? This one is magnesium oxide, and how about this one? This one is aluminum oxide. So these names are correct because this is a different type of compounds. So first, let's discuss the different types of compounds. We have two types. We have ionic or covalent. Ionic is between a metal plus a non-metal elements. Meanwhile, for covalent compounds, it's made up of non-metal elements. So it's a non-metal to a non-metal. Now, how do we know if an element is metal or a non-metal? You can go and check your table of elements. There you can see this ladder over here. This ladder, this separates the metal from the non-metals. On this case, lahat ng elements above this ladder, all of these are non-metals. Again, all of these are non-metals. On the other hand, lahat ng elements below the ladder, going to the left, all of these are all metals except for hydrogen. So hydrogen is also a non-metal. Let's have magnesium oxide. This one is composed of magnesium and oxygen. Is this ionic or covalent? Again, we first need to identify if the elements here are metal or non-metal. Magnesium is over here. This one is a metal. Again, lahat ng elements to the left to below the ladder, these are all metals. So this one is a metal. How about the oxygen? Oxygen is over here. It's above this ladder. So this one is a non-metal. So metal plus non-metal, this one is ionic. So this one is an ionic compound. Next one, we have aluminum oxide. So here we have aluminum. It's over here. So it's below the ladder. So this one is a metal. Meanwhile, oxygen is over here. This one is a non-metal. So metal plus non-metal. This one is also an ionic compound. How about for this one? This one is carbon dioxide. Here we have carbon. It's above the ladder, so this one is a non-metal. And the same thing for oxygen, it's also above the ladder. This one is also a non-metal element. How about for this one, CH4, carbon, again, this one is a non-metal. And hydrogen, again, this one is also a non-metal. So this one is also a covalent compounds. Now, in terms of their naming, for the ionic, there is no prefixes, okay? So we don't use the prefixes in naming ionic compounds. Then of course for covalent compounds, we use the prefixes, yung ba, yung di, mono, tetra, and so on. Let's practice. We have here sodium, or we have here Na2O. Let's name this compound. So again, before we name this, we need to identify first if this is ionic or covalent. So sodium, this one is a metal. And then oxygen, this one is a non-metal, so this one is ionic. And again, for ionic, we don't use the prefixes, so this is very simple. This one is sodium oxide. Sodium oxide, so in this case, sorry, this must be small letter. Sodium oxide, sodium oxide. Again, here we don't use the prefixes to tell how much of that atom is present in the compound. Next, we have this one, NH3. This one is composed of nitrogen, a non-metal, and also hydrogen, a non-metal. So this one is a covalent compound. And again, for covalent compounds, we use the prefixes. So here we have one nitrogen, and again, pag one, we don't use the prefix mono. This one is nitrogen. Again, the second element is we have three. So again, that's tri. Then again, hydrogen. Then for the prefix, we have trihydride. Next one, we have Mg3N2. So this one is composed of magnesium. Magnesium is a metal and nitrogen is a non-metal. So this one is an ionic compound. And again, for ionic compound, walang mga prefix. So just name this one as magnesium, magnesium, then nitride. Next, we have Al2O3. This one is aluminum. Aluminum is a metal. Oxygen is a non-metal, so this one is ionic. And again, for ionic, just name this one without the prefixes, aluminum oxide. Next, we have CCl4. This one is carbon. Carbon is a nonmetal, and the same thing with Cl, it's also a nonmetal. So this one is a covalent compound. Again, for covalent compounds, we use the prefixes. So we have one carbon. Again, for this case, walang mono since it's on the first element. So this one is carbon. Then we have apat na chlorine that will give us tetrachloride.